السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله. فقلت نعم، ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له: وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء، ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت: السلام عليك يا أبتا يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء، فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرف الكساء وأومأ بيد اليمنى إلى السماء وقال: اللهم إن هؤلاء لأهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلم، يحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا هرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم. فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحيا ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا في محبته هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال لأمين جبرائيل: يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل: يا ربي أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم، قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبريل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك: وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله: وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله، إنه نعم، قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبريل معنا تحت الكساء، فقال لأبي: إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول: إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد. فقال علي لأبي: يا رسول الله، أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي: والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وهفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي: إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال النبي ثانيا: يا علي، والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، وفيهم محموم إلا وفرج الله همه، ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه، ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي: إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا، وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء وبقوتك التي قهرت بها كل شيء وخضع لها كل شيء وذل لها كل شيء وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء وبعزمتك التي ملأت كل شيء وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء وبنور وجهك الذي أضاء له كل شيء يا نور يا قدوس يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تهتك العصام. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النقام. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعام. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تقطع الرجاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء. اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك وأستشفع بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك وأن توزعني شكرك وأن تلهمني ذكرك. اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضع متذلل خاشع متضرع أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني بقسمك راضيا قانعا وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا. اللهم وأسألك سؤال من اشتدت طاقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته وعزم فيما عندك رغبته. اللهم عزم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكروك وظهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك. اللهم لا أجد لذنوبي غافرا ولا لقبائحي ساترا ولا لشيء من عملي القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك ظلمت نفسي وتجرأت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي كم من قبيح سترته وكم من فاضح من البلاء أقلته وكم من عثار وقيته وكم من مكروه دفعته وكم من ثناء جميل لست أهل له نشرته. اللهم عزم بلائي وأفرط بي سوء حالي وقصرت بي أعمالي وقعدت بي أغلالي وحبسني عن نفعي بعد آمالي وخدعتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بخيانتها ومطالي. يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك ألا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء عملي وفعالي ولا تفضحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري ولا تعاجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملته في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي وكثرة شهواتي وغفلتي. وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأحوال رؤوفا وعلي في جميع الأمور عطوفا. إلهي ومولاي وربي من لي غيرك أسأله كشف ضري والنظر في أمري. إلهي ومولاي أجريت علي حكما اتبعت فيه هوى نفسي ولم أحترز فيه من تزيين عدوي فغرني بما أهوى وأسأله على ذلك القضاء فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعض حدودك وخالفت بعض أوامرك فلك الحمد علي في جميع ذلك ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاؤك وألزمني حكمك وبلاؤك. وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا مستغفرا منيبا مقرا مذعنا معترفا لا أجد مفرا مما كان مني ولا مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في سعة رحمتك. اللهم فاقبل عذري وارحم شدة ضري وفكني من شد وثوقي. يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني ورقة جلدي ودقة عزمي. يا من بنى خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي هبني لابتداء كرمك وسالف برك بي. يا إلهي وسيدي وربي أتراك معذبي بنارك بعد توحيدك وبعد من طوى عليه قلبي من معرفتك ولهج به لساني من ذكرك واعتقده ضميري من حبك وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك. هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تضيع من ربيته أو تبعد من أدنيته أو تشرد من آويته أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمته. وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي ساجدا وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقا وبشكرك مادحا وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققا وعلى ضمائر حوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعا وعلى جوارح سعت إلى أوطان تعبدك طائعا وأشارت باستغفارك مذعنا ما هكذا الظن بك ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم يا مراد وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه قليل مكروه يسير بقاؤه قصير مدته فكيف احتمالي لبلاء الآخرة وجليل وقوع المكاره فيها وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقامه ولا يخفف عن أهله لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض يا سيدي فكيف لي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الحقير المسكين المستكين يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي لأي الأمور إليك أشكو ولما منها أضج وأبكي لأليم العذاب والشدة أم لطول البلاء ومدته فلئن سيرتني في العقوبات مع أعدائك وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك فهب لي يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي صبرت على عذابك فكيف أصبر على فراقك وهب صبرت على حر نارك فكيف أصبر عن النظر إلى كرامتك أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجائي عفوك فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا لئن تركتني ناطقا لأضجن إليك بين أهلها ضجيج الآملين ولأصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين ولأبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين ولأنادينك أين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين يا غاية آمال العارفين يا غياث المستغيثين يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين ويا إله العالمين أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفتي وذاق طعم عذابها بمعصيته وحبس بين أدباقها بجرمه وجريرته وهو يضج إليك ضجيج مؤمل لرحمتك ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك يا مولاي فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك ورأفتك ورحمتك أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يأمل فضلك ورحمتك أم كيف يحرقه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفها أم كيف يتقلقل بين أدباقها وأنت تعلم صدقه أم كيف تزجره زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا رب أم كيف يرجو فضلك في عتقه منها فتتركه فيها هيهات ما ذلك الظن بك ولا المعروف من فضلك ولا مشبه لما عاملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك فباليقين أقطع لولا ما حكمت به من تعظيم جاحديك وقضيت به من إخلاد معانديك لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما وما كان لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقاما لكنك تقدست أسماؤك أقسمت أن تملاها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين وأن تجل ثناؤك قلت مبتليا وتطولت بالإنعام متكرما أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون إلهي وسيدي فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي حتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريتها أن تهب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمته وكل ذنب أذنبته وكل قبيح أسررته وكل جهل عملته كتمته أو أعلنته أخفيته أو أزهرته وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جوارحي وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم وبرحمتك أخفيت وبفضلك سترت وأن توفر حظي من كل خير أنزلت أو إحسان فضلت أو بر نشرت أو رزق بسطت أو ذنب تغفر أو خطأ تستر يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك الرزق يا من بيده ناصيتي يا عليما بضري ومسكنتي يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب أسألك بحقك وقدسك وأعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي في الليل والنهار بذكرك معمورا وبخدمتك موصولا وأعمالي عندك مقبولا حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا يا سيدي يا من عليه معولي يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب या रब्बी या रब्बी या रब قوي على خدمتك جوارحي واشدد على العزيمة جوانحي وهب لي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك حتى أسرح إليك في ميادين السابقين وأسرع إليك في المبادرين وأشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين وأدنو منك دنو المخلصين وأخافك مخافة الموقنين وأجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين اللهم ومن أرادني بسوء فارده ومن كادني فقده واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك وأقربهم منزلة منك وأخسهم زلفة لديك فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك وجد لي بجودك واعطف علي بمجدك واحفظني برحمتك واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا وقلبي بحبك متيما ومن علي بحسن إجابتك وأقلني عثرتي واغفر لي زلتي فإنك قضيت على عبادك بعبادتك وأمرتهم بدعائك وضمنت لهم الإجابة فإليك يا رب نسبت وجهي وإليك يا رب مددت يدي فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي وبلغني مناي ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء فإنك فعال لما تشاء يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء وطاعته غنى ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء وسلاحه البكاء يا سابغ النعم يا دافع النقام يا نور المستوحشين في الظلام يا عالما لا يعلم صل على محمد وآل محمد وافعل بما أنت أهله وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد فاتحة
رحم الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم There's a request for Surah Fatiha. Request for Surah Fatiha for Marhum Muhammad Salim Aban Ibn Wala Muhammad. Surah Fatiha. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم. It's loose from there. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين وبالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. صلى الله عليه محمد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. The verse that I recited for tonight's Eisal-e-Thawab Majlis is from Surah Baqarah, ayat number 155, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains a phenomena of musibah as we commemorate this Eisal-e-Thawab Majlis and dedicate it to the marhum for whom we recite this Surah Fatiha. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevate the status of marhum, give him a place in the Jawar of Masumeen alayhim salatu wassalam. And on the same note, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continuously provide patience and sabr to the bereaved family for this great loss. But of course, we all understand this realization is the sooner we come to the actualization, sooner we come to the realization, sooner we understand, the better it is. That we are here for time being and we must travel to the eternal abode. And with that said, there are so many ayat and riwayat which you hear on regular basis which make us understand this phenomena of life after death, that no one is here forever. Jab Nabi Mursal na rahe, to kaun rahega. And when the greatest of the individuals who are the purpose for the creation of entire humanity, entire universe, you just recited that in Hadith-e-Qisam, that ma khalaqtu fulkan tajri wa bahran yasri wa fulkan tasri illa li ajlikum wa mahabbatikum, that the only purpose for the creation of all of mankind, shamsam mudi'a falakin yadur wa bahran yajri wa fulkan tasri illa li ajlikum, everything in the universe, you just recited that in Hadith-e-Qisam, is a reminder for us every time that it is created for these individuals, these personalities. Illa khamsatal ladina hum tahtal qisa, those five who are underneath the qisa. So when they themselves are, at least physically speaking, not in this physical realm, then how is it that you and I will remain in this physical realm? And of course, we believe in the concept of life after death, because that concept of life after death also brings accountability to you. When you know that there is going to be a test, you know that there is going to be accountability, that you know there's going to be, you will be held accountable for what you grow, what you seed, what you put in the ground, what you place and what you plant, then of course there will come some responsibility for you. And this is something which is so common in this worldly life of ours. No institution gives you a free degree, a free pass. No, even when you're from the basic things such as going through your schooling, and then after your schooling, kids, when they're trying to get their driver's license, when they're trying to give the road test, the written test, all those things that are involved in it, you gotta, go ahead and prove that you have learned something, you are proven that you can handle this. Only then you're given the title and you're entitled to that, degree, or you're entitled to that license, or you're entitled and you're trusted with it. So the way to measure that, way to gauge that, is to be able to put a person to an exam. Similarly, in the institutions of education, you don't get a degree without having proven yourself, without having been tested. And of course, if you get your degrees without being tested and without being proven that you know this stuff, then of course you're bound to cause blunders when it comes to the professional life in the areas where they have trusted you based on a fake degree of yours. And we can see the examples in the world, how people have gotten the fake degrees and they have ascended to the highest of the post, yet the corruption still stays there. So with that understanding, we know that in this world, we can't get anywhere without proving ourselves, without a test and tribulation. Then how is it possible for us that in the hereafter we'll be given a free pass? There will be accountability. So this concept of accountability makes you what? Keeps you on your toes. If I know that I just have to study all year long and there's not going to be an exam, although if I'm a person of principles, I'll study. But then because there's no pressure of me proving myself, and there's no need to memorize anything, there's no need to keep it all, intact, then I might relax a little bit, because who's going to ask me a question? There's no accountability, there's no questionnaire, then I'll relax. But the same way, when a person thinks that this world is where it's going to end, this is it, you get into the grave, you're buried, or you're, burned, for example, in certain cultures, and then there's no accountability after that. Then, of course, you will have a life without any laws and without any rules and without any regulations. Now, while these people who don't believe in rules and regulations in the hereafter, they believe and oblige to the rules and regulations of this world. So Islam, and like many other divine religions, have proven this fact, that this worldly life is something which is a temporary abode for you, and the real life awaits for you. It's just so happened a lot of time, because something we haven't seen it ourselves, we tend to doubt the reality of it. When a thing is shown to you, proven to you with facts and presented, then you start believing. Right away, people, when you tell someone something, they say, well, what's the proof? You tell someone that this is haram, so what's the proof? Where does it say in Quran? Or, many of the ways people ask questions these days. And there's nothing wrong in questioning the validity of something which is halal or haram. So we got to be mindful of that. And when we are looking for proofs and we're looking for these rules and regulations, we understand that the life after death is something where these things, as the ayat of Quran mentions, there won't be any fatigue. There will not be any sort of pain over there. It's straightforward ayat of Quran say that after you leave this world, there's no pain and there's no fatigue in the hereafter. When you arrive over there, if your course of the path has been chosen for you, that you will be given your namai amal in your right hand, which means you're bound to go to the promised area, the promised land, this paradise, then of course there's no fatigue over there, there's no pain over there, there's nothing which could be the concept of troublesome or anything which has to do with pain and agony. That ends over there. With this concept, the Ma'sumin are trying to tell us is something that you gotta wait it out. You gotta have patience in order to achieve something important and big. And even in this life, you don't look for shortcuts. You gotta go through the proper channel. You work things out in the right way, and only it will bear fruits after you have gone through it in the proper channel. But if you start looking for the shortcuts, then of course, the end result will be similar. Hence, need to be patient with this life. A lot of time people give in and give up so quickly, while the concept of accountability is something which can keep you on your toes. If I know that after this majlis, whatever Maulana is saying, there will be a questionnaire given to me, and based on that questionnaire, I will be given certain rights, then I'll be very, cognizant of what is being said from the minbar. But if there isn't going to be any questionnaire afterwards, and Maulana is just going to speak for 25 more minutes, and it'll be azan time, and we'll get up and we'll all leave. He's not going to be asking questions, nor will there be any questionnaire. And even if there was one, it doesn't really matter, because it's not going to impose any sanctions, or it's not going to relax anything upon me. So I'll listen, I'll phase in, I'll phase out, I'll pay heed to certain points. And if a phone call comes, or if a text message comes, or if I get busy and distracted with something else, so what? Doesn't matter. With that understanding, not that I'm saying there's going to be any questionnaire, there has never been one, although I'm so in favor of that, to have some sort of accountability as to what is being said from the minbar. And then the speaker would also take responsibility of what he's saying or she's saying from the minbar. So, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So this accountability is very important. Ayat of Quran are filled with that. When you leave this world, you will be held accountable. There's concept of muhasibah nafs. The muhasibah, as the ayat of Quran mentioned, is something which is inevitable, and there's no doubt about it. Now, some people will have a very easy muhasibah, and some people will have a very difficult muhasibah. It all depends on how you deal with things over here. The more patience you show over here, the more control you have on things as far as your nafs is concerned, the easier will be the muhasabah in the hereafter. Riwayat mentioned, and I'm just quoting it off the top of my head. I did not bring it written, but riwayat, you've heard these many times before. Rasulullah Akram Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, whoever is content with the limited amount that he's been given, Allah will be content with the limited amount of actions that he has produced. So it's not like that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is expecting a great deal from you. If Allah has given you limited amount of resources and you're content with it, you are content that this is what Allah has written in my taqdeer. I'm not saying over here denying the fact that you should move forward. You should continue to move forward. But sometimes your risk is that much, and that's it. If you're content with it without any, complaints, or without blaming anyone, or none of those things, then Allah will be content with the limited amal that you have produced. That's how merciful our Lord is. He's not expecting a boatload of amal from you. Only the amal which are what? Which are accepted in his eyes, which are accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So with that said, accountability is something which keeps us on track. It keeps us on our toes. That's why hayat and maut are not in our hands. Ayat of Quran is very clear. تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. The concept as to how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator of hayat and maut. You are not the creator of hayat and maut. Some people in the world, they declare that Ana uhyi wa ana umi. I can give hayat and I can give death. Pharaoh made this claim. I said, how do you do so? He said, well, look, I can kill anyone at any time. I can take anyone's life at any time. And so he picked out a random person and he killed them. Seriously, I killed him. I gave death to that person. So what about hayat? He said, let's go to the prison. There were many people on death row. He said, this person is released. This person was bound to die tomorrow. I release him. So I give hayat as well. So this was his concept of proving that he can also do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does. Prophet of his time asked him a very simple question. He said, Allah brings the sun from Mashriq and he sets it in Maghrib. You claim to be Allah and Lord, Rabbukumul Ala, you bring it from Maghrib and set it in Mashriq. Simple. Forget about creation and death. Allah brings it from Mashriq and he lands it in Maghrib. You reverse it, see if that can be done. And of course, everyone in the surrounding, it was a wake-up call for them that this is a fake deity. This is a fake God that who's claiming, which he himself does not have any possession over. So with that said, of course, ayat says, Allah is the one who has created hayat. Allah is the one who has created this mouth. So when it's in his hand, he's the one who's going to give it to you. You did not have a choice when you were coming into this world. And similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you don't get to choose when you leave this world. Therefore, the only thing that you have in your possession, as Surah Al-Imran 102 says, وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. Don't die unless you are submissive to the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's in your hand. Dying is not, but how you die is in your hand. I hope that's understood. जाना आपके हाथ में नहीं है, मगर किस हालत में जाना है ये आपके हाथ में है. So that's what makes the difference. So with that said, the accountability is something which keeps insan on his toes. Maut, we don't know when it's going to come, so you got to be prepared for it. The other similar object, similar to maut, is the reappearance of Imam of our time, Imam Mahdi, Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. When Ma'asumin were asked, when they mentioned that last one, Imam al-Qaim, he will go into occultation and he will remain in occultation until this and this happens. Someone asked Imam, when will he reappear? Imam said, we do not give a time period as to when he will reappear. In fact, if anyone gives time, then they're kazzabin, then they're liars. This ilm is only with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah will decide when he reappears, when he will. Of course, it is also our wrongdoings that is keeping Imam in the occultation as well. Just like the people who failed to show their loyalty to the Imam al-Hadir in their times, you and I have failed to show loyalty to Imam al-Ghaib in our time. That time people were making false claims, Imams, we are with you. How many times did it happen in the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam? The people said, Imam, why don't you rise against the khulafa of the time? Imam said, how many of you will be able to stand up? And he said, we're all with you. Imam said, okay, then tomorrow all of you come back with your heads shaved. Imam said, we're here to give our lives to you and you are asking us to shave our heads? He said, yeah, it's a simple ask. The next day, only 4 people showed up. When you're not even able to shave your head for the command of Imam, which is nothing, no big deal, then, how are you going to give your next? If tomorrow Imam rises and he does this khuruj, you will back out. And same thing has happened in the time of our second Imam. When Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba was ready to give a response to Amir al-Sham, he was betrayed by his own people. Yes, he had to make that peace treaty, which was for the betterment of the community. But Imam did not initially choose to make the peace treaty. Initially, he wanted to go ahead and look at the history. He wanted to go ahead and give a response to Amir al-Sham. You'd think the person who fought his father all these years, Imam is going to go ahead and make a peace with him? Or times have changed, my father is no longer alive. No. Imam is going to follow the footsteps of his father. When Amir al-Mu'mineen was at war with Amir Sham, Imam Hassan will be at war with Amir Sham as well. And that's why Imam Hussein continued that legacy. So people said, stand up and, against these khulafa of your times. These people who have usurped the right for you to be the Khalifa Muslimin, Khalifatul Muslimin. This is the irony where you find that even the khulafa were admitting and acknowledging the superiority of Amir al-Mu'mineen, yet not as far as giving him the mansab that belonged to him. I thought I might not be able to share this hadith, but I'll share it with you anyway. This is from the second Khalifa. وعن عمر بن الخطاب أنه قال, that when he became the Khalifatul Muslimin, he ascended the power after the wafat of the first Khalifa. في أول يوم صعد على المنبر في خلافته. The first day when he ascended on the minbar, so it's a custom, whoever's the next Khalifa, he comes up and he gives the lecture, he gives the khutbah. So he's the one who's leading. He said, لَقَدْ أُعْتِيَ عَلِيٌّ عَلَيْهِ. After he has mentioned a lot of things, he said, لَقَدْ أُعْتِيَ عَلِيٌّ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامُ. Now, alayhi salam, I'm saying, he didn't say that. He said, إِثْنَتَيْ عَشَرَةَ فَضِيلًا. Ali has been given 12 fada'il. لَمْ تَكُنْ لِي وَلَا لِأَحَدٍ مِنَ النَّاسِ وَاحِدَةٌ مِنْهَا. Not for me, not for anyone is one of those fada'il. This is where even, your foe, the one who's against you, is standing against you, is acknowledging your superiority. He said, Al-Ula mawliduhu fil Kaaba. And he's stating the facts. He said, no one amongst us has those fadail which Ali has. First, mawliduhu fil Kaaba. He's the only one who was born inside the Kaaba and no one else was born. وَالثَّانِيَ زِوَاجُهُ فِي السَّمَاءِ. That he was married in the heavens by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالثَّالِثَ زَوْجَتُهُ فَاطِمَةٌ. His wife is Fatimatul Zahra, Sayyidatul Nisa'il Alameen, and no one else has such. And all of these are the facts that everybody knows. وَالرَّابِعَ الْحَسَنُ وَالْحُسَيْنُ وَأَوْلَادُهُ. His children who are Sayyida Shabe Ahlul Jannah. وَخَامِسَ قَوْلُ النَّبِي مَنْ كُنْتُ مَوْلَاهُ فَعَلِيٌّ مَوْلَاهُ. Prophet said only about Ali and no one else, that whomsoever I'm the Mawla, Ali is their Mawla. Allahumma wali man walahu, a'adi man a'adahu. He did not say about the first or the second or the third Khalifa that, oh Allah, have mercy, whomsoever I'm the Mawla, they are their Mawla. And oh Allah, whomever loves them, you love them, and whoever is holding animosity against them, you hold animosity and grudge against them. وَالسَّادِسَ قَالُوا النَّبِي بِحُضُورِ يَوْمَ غَدِيرِ خُمْ. That Rasulullah said to Ali, while I was present on the day of Qum, Anta minni bimanzilata Haruna min Musa. Or this was said at the time of Tabuk, that, oh Ali, you are to me as Harun is to Musa, illa la nabiyya ba'di. Was-sabi'a saddu abwab as-sahaba wa lam yasudda babahu. The doors of all of the companions were closed except the door of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Wal-thamina qala an-nabi man 'abada Allah fi mithl Makkah wal Madina alf sanat. Whoever worshipped Allah in Makkah or Medina for 1,000 years, illa 50 ama. We said, as the ayat of Quran says, the Hazrat Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam labitha fihim alfa 950 years. That's what he's referring to. وَالصَّبَرَ كَنُوهِ فِي قَوْمِهِ. And who did sabr like Hazrat Nuh did. وَالصَّبَرَ عَلَى حَرِّ Makkah. And he did sabr on the heat of Makkah. وَجُوعِ الْمَدِينَةِ. On the hunger of Medina. وَأَنْفَقَ مَالَهُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. And he did infaq of his mal in the way of Allah. وَكَانَ بِقَدْرِ Abi Qubais, and it was as the amount of this mount Abu Qubais, if the sadaqah was that amount. وَقُتِلَ بَيْنَ الصَّفَا وَالْمَرْوَى عَمْدًا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, and the one who did qital in between Safa and Marwa, who was martyred between Safa and Marwa in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, muhtasiban, وَلَمْ يَأْتِ بِوِلَايَتِكَ, and does not believe in your wilayat or Ali, لَكَانَ عَمَلُهُ وَزُهْدَهُ وَإِنفَاقُهُ وَقَتْلُهُ هَبَاءً مَنْثُورًا, that all of that person's actions will be none but scattered dust as long as they do not believe in your wilayat. Salawat Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And then he mentioned 5 more other attributes of Ali ibn Abi Talib, which no one else possesses, that I'll skip for now, inshallah. I'll mention it another time. So here we understand that Ali ibn Abi Talib is being asked by the companions, "Oh Imam, you stand up and we are with you." And Imam's request was what? How many people can be with me? Go ahead and shave your heads. Only 4 people show up. That's how many are loyal to me. And similarly, in the time of Imam Hassan, and of course in the time of Imam Hussein, it was practically shown to you the Muslim empire which has spread from left to right. How many people standing up for the sake of Islam? 72 is the number that we're given. If you far-fetched 130 maximum are in Karbala on this side, and close to 30,000 are on the opposing side. So with that said, this shows you how the world could be so deceiving. Many of the folks, and I'm not talking about the ordinary people in Karbala, many of the folks who were in some sort of leadership capacity, Shimr al-Joshan, Umar Asad, these people, they were all given hopes of some sort of incentives to go ahead and kill Imam Hussein. What was the incentive given to Umar Asad? Shahr-e-Ray. Shahr-e-Ray is, where Tehran is, of course, that Sarzameen, that area of Ray, where you have Tehran, present day, and all that land. Of course, it was under Muslim empire at that time. They had, of course, gotten that far. He said, that belongs to you. All you've got to do is go ahead and kill Hussein. And he sold his nafs. And he's not an ordinary individual. Umar ibn Sa'ad, Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas. These are the companions that if you go ahead and pick up the books of history. And they have seen Imam Hussein. They have understood the maqam of Sayyid al-Shuhada. They know. Maybe many people in the army might not be aware because of the distance that they were so far away. They were always in Kufa, although Imam made Kufa to be his capital, they should have knowledge of Kufa as well. But with that said, we find that these people had sold their nafs for the sake of this world. Deceivement of this world is so great that even the greatest of the personalities, they get deceived by it. And I mean, for example, if you look at the lives of some of the greater companions, such as Talha and Zubair, you read the story of Talha and Zubair, you find such a strange personality, especially this individual Talha, that he's someone who is amongst those people, very few handful people who was part of the janazah of Janab Fatimah Zahra, right? Janab Sayyidah did not allow a very grand janazah. It was taken out at night. Amongst the people who were present is Talha. Talha is someone, when the house of Janab Sayyidah was attacked, and Khalifa Awwal was demanding the bay'ah from those who were inside the house. The person standing on the other side of the door said, "What? You guys are conspiring inside?" Who were amongst the conspirators? Talha was part of it. He said, "If Ali gives allegiance, I will give allegiance." I'm standing side by side. This is the loyalty you see. But aqibat of an individual is what matters. What is the aqibat of Talha? And Zubair, of course, that you still find their names to be, embossed in the wall in the Masjid-e-Ali. What did they do? They fought against Amir al-Mu'mineen. Battle of Jamal was their product. Al-Mu'mineen had a lot to do with it, but this was their brainchild. They're the one who produced it. And then waged this war against Imam Ali, against known agreed upon Khalifatul Muslim. You don't want to call him to be Imam? At least he's the Khalifa. Trust him that much that you're waging war against him. So with that said, we find that aqibat is something which is important. The last, not what you've done all these years. All these years, if you look at the resume of Talha, is very good. Up until the last few years of his life, which, things go south. And on the opposite side, you find people like Hur ibn Yazid al-Riyahi, whose resume might not be that great all his life. But the last choice that he makes is something which writes, the history of what Hur is and what Hur was. And that's why Hur, Imam Hussein also looked at and treated people. And don't take it for granted when Masumin are quoted as saying that we look into the nasl and the progeny and the offspring of an individual when we are fighting them. If we find anyone to be worthy, we spare that person. Of course, that is basira, which is given to them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ordinary people like you and I would be just given a task to go ahead and fight, we'll fight. But that's the basira only Imam al-Masum has, that he sees that this person has good in his progeny. I'll spare him because the progeny will be better. The offspring will be better. And so when Hur, he's the first one to confront Imam Hussein. He comes and blocks his way, stops Imam Hussein, does not allow him to proceed, does not give him any options. He says, you have to come with me. It is Imam Hussein raising Hur to that level. Imam said, oh Hur, it is time for Salat. You go ahead and pray your namaz, we'll pray ours. So we might have disagreements, but when it comes to Salat, you will be our leader. You'll stand and I'll pray behind you. This is, according to some scholars, this is the first sahm from Imam Hussein toward Hur in building his character, in bringing this awakening him that he was, of course, misled up until this point, deceived by those false rulers, because he was acting under the orders of Yazid when he's standing and confronting Imam Hussein. But the moment Imam Hussein says something like this is where Imam is, planting a seed in his heart that will grow later on, and it'll grow quickly because there's not much time. Imam said, go ahead and pray. He said, well, as long as you're here, we're going to pray behind you. This is the difference between people as well. Umar Asad, when Imam says to him, and Imam offers Umar Asad as well. This is, Imam says to him that you're hoping to get Shahr-e-Rai. You won't even get to eat the fruits and the wheat and the barley of Shahr-e-Rai. So he makes a mockery of Imam Hussein. So I won't eat wheat and barley, I'll eat something else. Imam is saying, you won't even get to see it. Forget about being the ruler of Shahr-e-Rai. But here when Imam, throws a sahm towards Hur, he embraces it. Then when Imam is about to move, Hur holds on to the reins of the horse. Imam says to him, what? May your mother sit in your grief. This was the second, arrow that Imam is throwing toward Hur. He said, oh Hussein, I can't say the same thing to you. Why? Because your mother is Fatimatu Zahra. If it was anyone else, I would have responded in the same way, but I can't say it to you because your mother is Fatimatu Zahra. So the Imam knows that where to attack and who will have effects. That was the second. And then once they arrive in Karbala, Imam had planted enough seeds in the heart of Hur that now he's thinking about it. He's looking himself on the night of Ashura. He says, I have a choice to make, which direction to go. Whether should I go in this direction or I go in that direction. Ukhayyiru, I'm finding myself choose between the two places. Bain al-jannati wal-jahannam. Whether should I go? And then you know the story, how Hur starts moving. People in the surrounding, when they see Hur, said, oh Hur, if we knew that if someone asked us who's the bravest warrior in all of Kufa, everyone will say, Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi, what is it that I see? That you are shivering and you're trembling, you're scared, and there's fear, wazih, and apparent from your face complexion. Hurr said, when I was leaving Kufa, I heard a voice, Basharat toward Jannah. I said, what Basharat? I'm going to attack Hussein. There's no Basharat in that. And then now he sees the reality of that. He arrives to the camp of Imam Hussein, throws himself down to the qadam of Imam Hussein, and he says, is there any tawbah for me? Imam says, who is this? Raise your head. He says, I am your enemy. I'm the one who stopped you. I'm the one who stopped the water from your family. I have committed too many crimes that I can't even show my face to you. Imam said, Hurr, stand up. Anta hurrun fi dunya wal akhirah. Your mother has named you correctly. You are Hurr in this world and the hereafter. Hurr said, Mawla, give me permission to be the first one to go ahead and sacrifice myself for all the crimes that I have committed. Imam says this is against our hospitality. Whenever someone comes to Ahlul Bayt, we treat them initially, we provide for them. Oh, you have come to us in a condition where we are strangers in this land and there's nothing for us to offer to you. Sorry for our lack of hospitality. Who is looking at himself that I'm here trying to apologize to Imam. And Imam is saying, on the other hand, he's apologizing to me for not having been able to provide for me. Imam, let me go. He said, oh, Hurr, you have just arrived. Why do you want to leave so soon? Hurr's son Bukair, or another name is mentioned, wants to go. Hurr sends him. He goes towards the Maqtal. He fights, and until his last breath, he calls upon his father, Ya Bati, alayka minni salam. Hurr wants to go to the Maqtal. Imam Hussein said, Hurr, where are you going? He said, my son has fallen. He's calling me. Imam said, oh, Hurr, you will not be able to bear the janaza, the dead body of your young son in your own hands. Let me help you. Hussein picks up the body of Hurr's son, brings him back. But I would say, Mawla, little while later, your own Ali Akbar will fall to the ground. How will you carry the body of Ali Akbar? ألا لعنة الله القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Oh Allah, please accept our ibadah tonight. Oh Allah, we've committed a lot of sins. Please forgive our sins. Oh Allah, give us the tawfiq and ability to follow the footsteps of Masumin alayhi salatu wassalam. Oh Allah, hasten the reappearance of our weighted Imam. Make us amongst the helpers and the soldiers of Imam. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Please recite Surah Fatiha for Marhum Muhammad Salim Awan Ibn Ghulam Muhammad. Surah Fatiha. ربنا تقبل منا انك انت السميع العليم وترد الله.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر.